The stars looked different this far from home. Captain Tae-sung stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the navigation screens with tired eyes. His crew had been traveling through uncharted space for 3 months now. They were explorers, not soldiers, searching for new worlds that humans could one day call home. His ship was small. Only 15 people were on board. They had basic weapons for protection, but nothing that could fight a real battle. Tae-sung liked it that way. He believed humans should explore the galaxy with open hands, not closed fists. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the sensors," said Ji-woo, his communications officer. She was young, barely 25, with sharp eyes that never missed a detail. Tae-sung walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "Energy signatures. Lots of them. They're big and they're getting closer." Before Tae-sung could respond, the view screen filled with light. Ships appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around them. They were massive, each one 10 times larger than Tae-sung's vessel. Their hulls were dark purple and silver, covered in strange symbols that glowed with an inner light. "We're being hailed," Ji-woo said, her voice shaking slightly. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge go silent. It was a face, but not human. The skin was pale violet, almost luminescent. The eyes were large and dark, without visible pupils. The creature had no nose, just small slits where a nose should be. When it spoke, its voice came through in perfect human language, though with an odd musical quality. "Human vessel, you have entered Vrin territory without permission. This is a violation of Imperial law. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Tae-sung stepped forward. "This is Captain Tae-sung of the Earth exploration ship Horizon. We didn't know this space was claimed. We mean no harm. We're simply passing through." The alien's expression didn't change. "Your intentions are irrelevant. You will surrender now." Tae-sung looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also trust. They would follow whatever decision he made. He thought about running, but their ship was surrounded. He thought about fighting, but that would be suicide. "We surrender," he said quietly. The alien ships moved closer. Beams of blue light shot out and wrapped around Tae-sung's ship. He felt the vessel shudder as the alien technology took control. His pilot tried to regain command, but nothing worked. They were being pulled toward the largest ship like a fish on a line. "What do we do, Captain?" asked Dae-hyun, his security chief. The man was a former soldier, tough and reliable. Even he looked worried. "We stay calm," Tae-sung said. "We cooperate. We find a way to survive this." The next hour passed in tense silence. The alien ship pulled them into a massive hangar bay. Through the view screen, they could see hundreds of other ships, all different sizes and designs. Some looked human-made. Others were completely alien. Many looked damaged, abandoned. When the hangar doors closed behind them, armed aliens boarded their ship. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, wearing armor that seemed to be made of living metal. It shifted and flowed across their bodies like liquid. Each carried a weapon that hummed with dangerous energy. "Everyone out," the lead alien commanded. "Leave all possessions. You are now prisoners of the Vrin Empire." Tae-sung's crew gathered in the corridor. They were scared but trying not to show it. Bo-ra, his engineer, stood close to Ji-woo, offering silent support. The others clustered together, looking to Tae-sung for guidance. "Do what they say," Tae-sung told them. "Stay together. Stay strong." The aliens marched them through endless corridors. The ship was enormous, more like a floating city than a vessel. The walls glowed with soft light. Strange plants grew in alcoves, plants with colors that shouldn't exist. Other aliens passed them in the halls, all stopping to stare at the humans with curiosity or contempt. They were brought to a large open area that reminded Tae-sung of an ancient Roman arena. Thousands of aliens filled the seats above, their voices creating a sound like wind through trees. The prisoners were forced to stand in the center, exposed and vulnerable. At the far end of the arena, a massive door opened. More aliens entered, these ones dressed in elaborate robes and carrying staffs that crackled with energy. They moved with authority, and the crowd fell silent at their approach. Then she entered. The crowd erupted in a sound that might have been cheering. The alien who walked through the door was clearly important. She wore a flowing garment that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. On her head sat a crown of crystalline material that floated just above her skin, held in place by some invisible force. Her violet skin was brighter than the others, almost glowing. She moved with grace and power. She was their queen. The queen walked to a throne that rose from the floor. A beautiful chair made of what looked like grown crystal. She sat and the crowd finally went completely silent. Her dark eyes swept over the human prisoners, examining each one with cold interest. Then her gaze reached Tai Sung. Something changed in her expression. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened slightly in what could only be shock. For a moment, the powerful queen looked almost vulnerable, almost human in her surprise. She stood up suddenly, nearly stumbling. The aliens around her noticed immediately, confusion spreading through the courtiers and guards. Queens didn't stumble. Queens didn't show surprise. Something was very wrong. The queen stared at Tai Sung and he stared back. There was something familiar about her face, about the way she held herself, but he couldn't place it. Where would he have seen an alien queen before? Your Majesty, one of the robed aliens said. Are you well? The queen didn't answer. She continued staring at Tai Sung and he saw something in her eyes that he never expected to see. Recognition. And something else. Something that looked almost like gratitude or maybe fear. Who are you? She finally asked, her voice carrying across the silent arena. She spoke directly to Tai Sung, ignoring the other prisoners completely. Captain Tai Sung, he answered. Of Earth. The queen's hand went to her throat, touching a small scar there. A scar that Tai Sung suddenly remembered. A scar he had treated with basic medical supplies in a dark cave on a forgotten world years ago. The memory hit him like a physical blow. The crashed ship. The injured alien. The weeks of hiding her from patrols. The dark eyes that had watched him with fear and confusion as he worked to save her life. It was her. The crowd began to murmur. The queen's reaction was too obvious now. Everyone could see something was wrong. The robed aliens moved closer to her, concerned and suspicious. The queen composed herself with visible effort. Her face became a mask again, cold and regal. But her eyes stayed on Tai Sung, and in them he saw 1,000 questions and 100 fears. Take them to the holding cells, she commanded. The comfortable ones. They are not to be harmed. I will decide their fate tomorrow. The crowd erupted in confusion. Comfortable cells? For human prisoners? This was not the Vrin way. As the guards surrounded them again, Tai Sung kept his eyes on the queen. She gave him the smallest nod, so quick he almost missed it. A message. A promise. Or maybe a warning. He had saved her life once, years ago. Now she held his life in her hands. The question was, would she remember the debt? 7 years earlier, Tai Sung had been a very different man. He was younger, more idealistic, and still believed that following orders was always the right thing to do. He served as a lieutenant in the Earth Defense Force, stationed on a remote colony world called Haven's Edge. It was a boring assignment. Nothing ever happened on Haven's Edge. That's what made it safe for new colonies. The colony was small, just 500 people trying to make a life on a world far from Earth. Tai Sung's job was to patrol the wilderness, watching for dangerous wildlife or geological instability. He spent most of his days alone, driving a rover through endless forests of purple vegetation under a green sky. He liked the solitude. It gave him time to think, to question the military career his father had pushed him into. He wasn't sure he was meant to be a soldier. He was too soft, his commander said. Too concerned with doing the right thing instead of just following orders. On the day everything changed, he was 60 miles from the colony, checking mineral deposits in a deep ravine. That's when he saw the smoke. It was black and thick, rising from behind a hill about a mile away. His training told him to report it immediately. His curiosity told him to investigate first. He chose curiosity. The crash site was devastating. The ship, if you could call it that, had torn through the forest and slammed into the ravine wall. It was small, maybe a one-person craft. The design was completely alien, all smooth curves and metal that seemed to shift colors in the light. It was also clearly beyond human technology by decades, maybe centuries. His first instinct was to call it in. First contact protocols were clear. Report any alien presence immediately. Let the specialist handle it. But something made him hesitate. The ship was destroyed. If there had been a pilot, they were probably dead. And if they weren't, they might not be alive much longer. He heard the sound then. A weak cry, almost like a human in pain. It came from inside the wreckage. Tai Sung climbed into the crashed ship, ignoring every rule he'd ever learned. Inside, it was dark and filled with smoke. Strange symbols glowed on broken panels. The smell was wrong, chemical and sharp. He found her in what must have been the cockpit. She was alien, that much was obvious. Her skin was pale violet, almost white in the dim light. Her body was roughly humanoid, but taller and thinner than any human. She was young, he could somehow tell, despite never having seen her species before, and she was dying. Blood, or something like blood, leaked from wounds across her body. Her breathing was shallow and rapid. One of her arms was bent at an impossible angle. When she saw him, her large dark eyes went wide with fear. She tried to move away but couldn't. "It's okay," Tae-sung said softly, raising his hands. "I'm here to help." She didn't understand his words, but maybe she understood his tone. She stopped trying to move away. Her eyes followed him as he carefully approached. He had basic medical training, but nothing prepared him for treating an alien. He didn't even know if human medicine would work on her. He did what he could. He used his medkit to clean the wounds. He injected her with broad-spectrum antibiotics, hoping they wouldn't poison her. He set her broken arm as carefully as possible, listening to her cries of pain and hating himself for causing more hurt. He gave her water and she drank it desperately. It took hours. By the time he was done, the green sun was setting. He knew he should call it in now. Report the crash. Get her proper medical care. But something stopped him again. His military was suspicious of aliens. They would see her as a potential threat first, a patient second. They might hurt her, interrogate her, lock her away. He made a decision that would change his life. He didn't report it. Instead, he found a cave nearby hidden behind a waterfall. He moved her there carefully, made her as comfortable as he could with blankets and supplies from his rover. Then he left, promising to return. The next weeks were the hardest of his life. He had to continue his normal patrols, acting like nothing was wrong. But every spare moment he returned to the cave. He brought food, though he had no idea what she could eat. He brought medical supplies. He brought water from the clearest streams. Slowly, she healed. Her wounds closed. Her arms straightened. Color returned to her pale skin. And she watched him. Always watched him with those dark, intelligent eyes. She tried to communicate. She would point at things and make sounds, trying to teach him her language. He did the same, teaching her simple human words: water, food, safe, pain, friend. It was slow, frustrating work, but gradually they began to understand each other. He learned her name, or at least his best approximation of it. The sounds she made were musical, hard for his human mouth to recreate. She learned his name too, Tae-sung. She would say it with an accent that made it sound like a song. He learned she was running from something. She would make gestures of ships, of fighting, of fear. Someone had tried to kill her. The crash wasn't an accident. She had been shot down, and her enemies might still be looking for her. That's when Tae-sung realized the true danger of what he was doing. If her enemies found her, they might destroy the whole colony to get to her. He was risking everyone by hiding her, but he couldn't bring himself to turn her over. She trusted him now. She smiled when he arrived. She seemed so young, so scared. One night, about 3 weeks after the crash, he arrived at the cave to find her standing. She had been too weak to stand before, but now she walked to him, moving with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. She placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. Then she pointed at herself and made the same gesture. He understood. "Thank you. I am in your debt. Friends." The next day, everything changed. He arrived at the cave to find it empty. She was gone. No note, no message, just gone. For a moment he felt panic. Had her enemies found her? Had something happened? Then he saw the markings on the cave wall, symbols in her language carefully carved. He couldn't read them, but somehow he knew what they meant. "Goodbye. Thank you. I will remember." High above the planet, he later learned, a massive alien ship had appeared and left. Just a brief appearance on sensors, gone before anyone could respond. They assumed it was a scout ship or a sensor glitch. Only Tae-sung knew the truth. She had been rescued. She was safe, and she was gone from his life forever. Or so he thought. Over the years, the memory faded. He left the military, tired of following orders that felt wrong. He became an explorer instead, searching for peaceful contact with alien species. He told himself it wasn't because of her, but deep down he knew it was. She had shown him that aliens weren't threats to be feared. They were people capable of fear and gratitude and trust. He never expected to see her again. Certainly never expected to see her wearing a crown, sitting on a throne, holding the power of life and death over him and his crew. But as he sat in the comfortable cell she had provided, watching the alien stars through a force field window, he knew one thing with certainty. The frightened, injured girl he had saved in that cave had become a queen, and now his fate depended on whether she remembered the debt between them. Queen Kaleth stood alone in her private chambers, staring at her reflection in the polished crystal mirror. Behind her, the vastness of space stretched through the transparent wall. Her empire, millions of worlds and billions of subjects, all of it her responsibility, all of it her burden. She touched the small scar on her throat hidden beneath her royal garments. The scar that human had tended with such care, using primitive medicine and gentle hands. The scar that reminded her of the weeks she spent recovering in a cold cave on a primitive world, learning to trust a strange alien who asked nothing in return for saving her life. Tae-sung. His name brought back memories she had tried to bury. Memories of fear and pain, but also kindness. He could have reported her location. He could have turned her over to his military. He could have killed her himself and been rewarded for it. Instead, he had risked everything to protect her, and now he was her prisoner. Now his life was in her hands. The irony was almost painful. A chime sounded at her door. She composed her face into the cold mask she wore for the court. Enter. High Commander Vexra walked in, his tall form rigid with military bearing. He was her chief military advisor, a position he had held since her father's time. He was loyal to the Empire above all else, which sometimes meant he questioned her decisions. Your Majesty, he said, bowing stiffly, I must speak with you about the human prisoners. What about them? You placed them in comfortable quarters. You ordered they not be harmed. This is unusual. The Vryn way is clear. Trespassers are executed as examples to others. Kaleth turned to face him fully. Are you questioning my judgment, Commander? I am concerned about it, Your Majesty. The court is talking. They sense something wrong. Some are saying you showed weakness today, that you reacted with emotion when you saw the human captain. She kept her face neutral, but inside her hearts raced. She had two hearts, as all Vryn did. Right now both were beating too fast. The humans are explorers, not warriors. Killing them serves no purpose except to make enemies of their species. With respect, Your Majesty, we have never worried about making enemies before. The Vryn Empire is strong. Other species fear us for good reason. Perhaps too much fear, Kaleth said carefully. Perhaps it is time we showed that strength can include mercy. Vexra's expression hardened. Your Majesty, I knew your father. He would never have hesitated. He would have had these humans executed within the hour. The Empire is watching. If you show weakness now, there are those who would see it as an opportunity. The threat was subtle but clear. Show weakness and someone might challenge her rule. The Vryn Empire was powerful, but it was also cutthroat. Queens who seemed weak didn't stay queens for long. I will make my decision tomorrow, Kaleth said firmly. That is all, Commander. You are dismissed. Vexra looked like he wanted to say more, but he bowed and left. Kaleth waited until the door closed, then allowed herself to show emotion. She pressed her hands against her face, feeling the weight of impossible choices. If she let Tae-sung go, the court would see it as weakness. Vexra would probably move against her, claiming she was unfit to rule. There were others who would support him. The Empire might tear itself apart in civil war. If she executed him, she would be betraying the debt she owed. She would be killing the man who saved her life, who showed her kindness when she was helpless. It would make her into the monster her father had been, the kind of ruler she had sworn never to become. She needed another option. A third path. Later that night, when the ship's systems indicated the sleep cycle, Kaleth put on a simple cloak and left her chambers. She used the servant passages, the hidden corridors that the royal family could use to move unseen. She had learned these paths as a child, playing games with her sister. Her sister, who had died in the same assassination attempt that had forced Kaleth to crash land on Haven's Edge. The holding cells were guarded, but the guards were hers. They had sworn personal loyalty to her. When she appeared, they bowed and stepped aside without question. Tae-sung's cell was at the end of the corridor. Through the transparent force field, she could see him sitting on the sleeping platform, staring at the stars. He looked older than she remembered, more tired, but his face was the same. The face that had looked down at her with concern as he set her broken arm. the face that had smiled when she finally managed to say his name correctly. She deactivated the force field. He turned, surprise crossing his features. Then recognition. He stood slowly. "You," he said simply. "Me," she agreed. She stepped into the cell and the force field reactivated behind her. They were alone now, truly alone for the first time in 7 years. "You're the queen," he said. "The one I saved was a queen. I was a princess then. I became queen when my father died 2 years ago." She moved closer. "You saved my life, Taesung of Earth. You risked everything to protect me. I did what anyone would do. No, you did what almost no one would do. You showed mercy to an enemy. You gave kindness without expecting anything in return. You weren't my enemy. You were just someone who needed help." His simple words touched something deep in her. This was why she couldn't kill him. This was why she had to find another way. "I am in danger," she told him. "My position is not as secure as it appears. There are those in my court who see any mercy as weakness. If I let you go, they will move against me. If I execute you, I betray everything I believe in." Taesung studied her face. "What do you believe in?" "I believe the Vrin Empire has become too cruel, too focused on dominance and fear. We were not always this way. Once we were explorers and scholars. We became conquerors instead. I want to change that. But change requires power, and power requires appearing strong. So we're back to the same problem. You need to execute us to appear strong. Unless," she said slowly, "there was another way. A way to show strength without cruelty." "What are you thinking?" She told him her idea. A trial by combat, an old Vrin tradition that had fallen out of favor. If the prisoners could defeat Vrin champions in honorable combat, they would earn their freedom. It would show the court that humans were not weak. It would satisfy honor without requiring execution. "There's a problem," Taesung said. "We're not warriors. Most of my crew are scientists and engineers. We'd lose any fair fight against your people." "Which is why it won't be entirely fair," Kaleth said. She explained what she could offer. Information about Vrin physiology, training techniques, small advantages that might even the odds. Not enough to guarantee victory, but enough to give them a chance, and if we lose, Taesung asked. "Then I will have tried," she said quietly, "and I will face whatever comes after." He looked at her for a long moment. "Why are you doing this? You could just let us die. It would be easier for you. Because you taught me something 7 years ago. You taught me that mercy is not weakness, that kindness is not foolish, that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is help someone who cannot help themselves." She touched her scar again. "I owe you my life. I will not betray that debt even if it costs me my crown." Taesung smiled then, the same gentle smile she remembered from the cave. "Then I guess we better win this fight." "Yes," she agreed. "You better had." She left him then, slipping back through the hidden corridors to her chambers. The plan was risky, almost suicidal, but it was a chance for both of them to survive, a chance to honor the debt between them. Tomorrow she would announce the trial by combat. Tomorrow everything would change. She touched her scar one more time, then laid down to rest. Sleep didn't come easily, but when it did, she dreamed of a cave, and a human with gentle hands who had given her hope when she had none. The morning alarm woke Taesung from restless sleep. He had spent most of the night thinking about the Queen's plan. A trial by combat. It sounded insane, but it was the only chance they had. The force field deactivated and 2 guards entered. They weren't hostile, just professional. They escorted him to a meeting room where his crew was already gathered. Jiwoo looked exhausted. Bo-Ra was nervous, playing with her hands. Dae-Hyun stood straight and alert, always the soldier. The others looked scared but trying to stay brave. "Captain," Jiwoo said with relief when she saw him. "Are you okay? What's happening?" Before Taesung could answer, another door opened. A Vrin female entered. She was shorter than the guards, dressed in simpler clothes. Her skin was a lighter shade of violet. She moved quietly, gracefully. "My name is Hae-in," she said in perfect human language. "I serve Queen Kaleth. She sent me to explain what will happen today." The crew exchanged confused looks. Taesung nodded for her to continue. "The Queen has announced a trial by combat. 2 of you will fight 2 Vrin warriors in the arena. If you win, all of you go free. If you lose," she didn't finish that sentence. She didn't need to. "That's not fair," Bo-Ra said. "We're not fighters. How are we supposed to beat Vrin warriors?" Hae-in smiled slightly. "The Queen is aware of this. She has sent me to help you. I will teach you what I can about Vryn physiology and fighting techniques. You will have advantages that your opponents won't expect. Daehyun stepped forward. I should fight. I have military training. I can handle this. You will fight, Haein agreed. But you need a partner. Someone who can work with you, think strategically. Everyone looked at Tae-sung. He shook his head. I'm not a fighter. I was in the military, but I was never good at combat. You don't need to be good, Haein said. You need to be smart. You need to use what I teach you. Your friend has strength and training. You have leadership and strategy. Together you have a chance. Jiwoo touched Tae-sung's arm. Captain, if there's any chance of getting us home, you have to take it. He looked at his crew. These people trusted him. They had followed him into unknown space, believing he would keep them safe. Now their lives depended on him winning a fight he had no business being in. Okay, he said. I'll fight. The next hours were intense. Haein took Tae-sung and Daehyun to a private training room. She explained that Vryn warriors were stronger and faster than humans, but they had weaknesses. Their joints bent differently, making certain movements difficult. Their eyes were sensitive to sudden bright light. They relied heavily on their superior reach, which made them vulnerable to close-quarters combat. She showed them pressure points that would cause pain or temporary paralysis. She taught them footwork that would let them move quickly despite being slower overall. She drilled them on combination attacks with one person distracting while the other struck. The key, she explained, is to make them think like warriors. Vryn combat is about honor and strength. They will expect you to fight that way. Don't fight like humans. Be unpredictable. Use tricks. There is no honor in death. While they trained, Jiwoo was working on her own plan. She had noticed something in the holding cell. The force fields that kept them locked in operated on a specific frequency. She recognized it from her communications studies. It was similar to some human technologies. She approached Haein during a break. Can I ask you something? Of course. Your ship's defensive shields. Do they use the same technology as the force fields? Haein looked surprised by the question. Yes, why? Jiwoo explained her idea. If she could determine the exact frequency, she might be able to send a signal to any human ships in the area. A signal that could pass through the Vryn shields because it used the same frequency. It wouldn't be detected because it would look like internal ship communications. That's brilliant, Haein said. But you would need access to a communications array. Can you get me access? Haein considered this. She was risking her life by helping them. If anyone discovered what she was doing, she would be executed for treason. But she believed in her queen. She believed that change was necessary. I can try, she said. That evening, while Tae-sung and Daehyun continued training, Haein smuggled Jiwoo into a secondary communications room. It was a risk. Guards patrolled the area. But Haein knew the patrol schedules. She had grown up in this ship, serving the royal family since she was a child. Jiwoo worked quickly. Her fingers flew over the alien controls, adapting what she knew about human systems to the Vryn technology. It was similar but different, like reading a familiar language written in a strange alphabet. After 20 minutes, she had it. She sent out a compressed data burst containing their location and the shield frequency information. If any human ships received it, they would be able to find them, maybe even help them. Done, she whispered. They slipped back to the holding area without being caught. Haein's hearts were racing the entire time. She had committed treason today. She had betrayed her people to help aliens, but it felt right. The queen wanted change. This was change. Back in the training room, Tae-sung and Daehyun were exhausted. They had been practicing for 8 hours straight. Their muscles ached. They had bruises from the training. But they were getting better. They were learning to work together to anticipate each other's movements. That's enough for today, Haein said. Tomorrow is the combat. You should rest now. Will we really have a chance? Tae-sung asked. Haein looked at him seriously. The warriors you face will be skilled and strong, but they will be overconfident. They will expect easy victories. Use that, fight smart, not strong. And remember, you're not just fighting for yourselves. You're fighting for every human who will come after you. Show the Vryn that humans are worthy of respect. That night, Tae-sung couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the combat, about his crew depending on him, about the queen who had risked everything to give them this chance. He thought about that cave 7 years ago, about the frightened alien he had saved. She had trusted him then. Now he had to trust her. He had to believe that her plan would work. In her chambers, Queen Calith stood looking at the stars. Tomorrow everything would change. Either her plan would succeed or it would fail spectacularly. Either way, she had made her choice. She had chosen honor over politics, mercy over cruelty. She had chosen to be the queen she wanted to be, not the queen others expected. She touched her scar and whispered a prayer to the old gods her people no longer worshipped. Let him survive. Let this work. Let me repay the debt I owe. In the communications room of a human destroyer 3 light-years away, an officer noticed an unusual signal. He almost ignored it. It was just noise after all, but something made him look closer. And when he did, his eyes went wide. "Captain," he called, "you need to see this. I just picked up a message from Captain Tae Sung's ship. They're alive, and they're telling us how to get past Vryn's shields." The wheels were in motion now. The plan was set. Tomorrow in the arena, humans would fight for their freedom. And somewhere in the dark between stars, a rescue fleet was preparing to jump to faster-than-light speeds. The game had changed. Now it was just a question of who would make the first move. The arena was even larger than Tae Sung remembered. Thousands of Vryn filled the seats, their voices creating a sound like distant thunder. The walls were high and smooth, impossible to climb. The floor was hard-packed earth, stained dark from previous combats. Above, the curved ceiling showed the stars beyond, a reminder that they were in space, trapped aboard a ship with no escape. Tae Sung and Dae Hyun stood in the center, wearing simple fighting clothes that Haein had provided. They had no weapons, no armor, just their training and their determination to survive. Across from them, 2 Vryn warriors entered through the opposite gate. They were massive, nearly 7.5 feet tall. Their muscles were clearly defined beneath their violet skin. They wore minimal armor, just protective guards on their forearms and legs. They carried no weapons either. This would be hand-to-hand combat, pure and simple. The warriors looked at the humans with contempt. To them, this was barely worth their time. Humans were small, weak creatures. This would be over in minutes. Queen Calith sat on her throne at the highest point of the arena. Her face was a cold mask showing nothing, but Tae Sung caught her eye for just a moment and he saw the fear there. The worry. She was betting everything on this. High Commander Vexra stood beside the throne, his expression satisfied. He thought the queen had made a mistake. After the humans lost, he would move to remove her from power. He already had the support he needed. This combat was just the beginning of his plan. A Vryn official stepped forward, his voice amplified to reach the entire arena. The humans have trespassed in Vryn space. By ancient law, they may fight for their freedom. 2 humans against 2 Vryn warriors. If the humans win, they and their crew go free. If they lose, they all die. Let the combat begin, the crowd roared. The 2 Vryn warriors moved forward confidently. They split apart, flanking the humans. Standard tactics for fighting multiple opponents. Divide and conquer. Dae Hyun and Tae Sung moved closer together, protecting each other's backs. They had practiced this. Stay together. Don't let the enemy separate them. The first warrior attacked Dae Hyun with incredible speed. His fist shot forward like a piston, but Dae Hyun had been expecting it. He slipped to the side just like Haein had taught him. The punch missed by inches. Dae Hyun countered with a strike to the warrior's exposed ribs. His fist connected, but it felt like hitting stone. The warrior barely flinched. He backhanded Dae Hyun, sending him sprawling across the arena floor. The crowd cheered. This was what they expected. Human weakness. The second warrior came at Tae Sung. He was slower, more methodical. He didn't underestimate his opponent quite as much. His strikes were measured, testing Tae Sung's defenses. Tae Sung blocked and dodged, giving ground. He remembered Haein's words. Make them think like warriors. Make them expect honor and direct combat. Then do something unexpected. Dae Hyun rolled to his feet, shaking off the hit. His jaw ached, but nothing was broken. He charged back in, but this time he went low. Vryn warriors were trained to fight standing opponents. They didn't expect attacks at knee level. His shoulder slammed into the first warrior's leg. The joint bent wrong and the warrior stumbled. Not much, but enough. Dae Hyun followed up with an elbow to the side of the knee. He heard something crack. The warrior roared in pain and anger. He swung wildly, forgetting his training. Dae Hyun ducked under the swing and struck the pressure point Haein had shown him. The warrior's entire left side went temporarily numb. He fell to one knee. The crowd's cheering faltered. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans weren't supposed to hurt Vryn warriors. Taesung was still fighting defensively against the second warrior. He was getting tired. The warrior's strikes were taking their toll, even the ones he blocked. His arms were bruised and aching, but he kept moving, kept dodging, kept making the warrior chase him. Now, he shouted to Daehyun. They had practiced this combination dozens of times. Daehyun sprinted toward Taesung's opponent. The warrior saw him coming and turned to face the new threat. That's when Taesung struck. He threw a handful of dirt from the arena floor directly into the warrior's eyes. Haein had told them that Vryn eyes were sensitive. The warrior screamed, clawing at his face. Taesung didn't hesitate. He struck the nerve cluster at the base of the warrior's neck. Hard. The warrior dropped like a stone, unconscious before he hit the ground. The arena went silent. Shocked silence. A human had defeated a Vryn warrior. It was unthinkable, but they weren't done. The first warrior had recovered from his temporary paralysis. His leg was injured, but he was still dangerous. He faced both humans now, rage burning in his eyes. He had been humiliated. His partner was unconscious. The humans had made him look weak. He charged with a roar that shook the arena walls. He was done playing. He would kill them both, combat rules be damned. Daehyun met the charge head-on. It looked suicidal. The warrior was bigger, stronger, and furious. But Daehyun had been a soldier. He knew that rage made fighters stupid. At the last second, he dropped and rolled. The warrior's momentum carried him forward. Over Daehyun's rolling form, Taesung was waiting. He had moved into position while the warrior was focused on Daehyun. He struck both of the warrior's kidneys simultaneously. The warrior gasped, his back arching in pain. Daehyun was up now and he struck the damaged knee again. The warrior fell. They were on him immediately, both of them. They struck pressure points, joints, nerve clusters. Everything Haein had taught them. The warrior tried to fight back, but he was overwhelmed. Injured, off balance, fighting two opponents who worked together perfectly. Finally, Taesung got his arm around the warrior's throat. It was a standard human chokehold, cutting off blood flow to the brain. The warrior thrashed, but Taesung held on grimly. Daehyun pinned the warrior's arms. After 30 seconds, the warrior went limp. Unconscious, Taesung released him and staggered back, breathing hard. Both humans were covered in bruises and dirt. They were bleeding from a dozen small cuts. They could barely stand, but they were standing. And both Vryn warriors were on the ground, defeated. The arena remained silent for a long moment. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. Then slowly a sound began. It started as a murmur, then grew louder. Some of the Vryn were cheering. Not many, but some. They had witnessed something they thought impossible. Humans had proven themselves as warriors. Queen Kaleth stood from her throne. Her voice carried across the arena. The combat is finished. The humans have won. By ancient law, they have earned their freedom. Vexra stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. This was a farce. The humans used tricks and dishonor. They threw dirt. They attacked from behind. This is not the Vryn way. Kaleth turned to face him. No, it is not our way. It is the human way. They fought with intelligence and strategy. They worked together as a unit. They adapted and overcame superior strength. Is that not worthy of respect? It is worthy of nothing. You have disgraced this empire by allowing this mockery. Vexra's hand went to his weapon. Other guards loyal to him moved forward. The coup he had been planning was beginning now, ahead of schedule. But Kaleth had prepared for this moment. Her own loyal guards moved to protect her. Haein appeared at her side carrying the queen's personal weapon. The arena, so recently the site of one combat, was about to become the site of another. So you reveal yourself, Vexra, Kaleth said calmly. You never cared about Vryn honor. You only cared about power. I care about strength, Vexra shouted. Our empire was built on strength. Not on showing mercy to weak aliens. Not on allowing humans to humiliate our warriors. Our warriors were not humiliated. They were defeated fairly in honorable combat. If you cannot see the difference, then you are not fit to serve in my command. The two factions faced each other across the arena. Civil war was seconds away. The crowd had gone silent again, watching to see who would strike first. That's when the alarms began to sound. Red light flooded the arena. An automated voice spoke in the Vryn language. Warning. Multiple ships detected. Warning. Shields under attack. On the view screen above, space lit up with weapons fire. Human ships had arrived. Dozens of them. They were using the shield frequency information Jiwoo had transmitted. They weren't destroying the shields, but they were overloading them, causing system failures throughout the Vryn flagship. Vexra's eyes went wide. What have you done? Kaleth allowed herself a small smile. I gave the humans a fair chance to prove themselves. It appears they had a backup plan. How very human of them. The arena descended into chaos. Vexra's followers didn't know what to do. Fight the queen? Fight the humans outside? The moment of uncertainty was all Kaleth needed. Her guards moved swiftly, disarming Vexra's faction before they could organize. In the center of the arena, Tae-sung and Dae-hyun watched the chaos with wide eyes. They had won their combat, but the real battle was just beginning. The flagship shuddered as human weapons impacted the shields. Kaleth stood firm on her platform, surrounded by loyal guards. Vexra was disarmed now, held by 2 large soldiers. His face showed rage and disbelief in equal measure. You planned this, he said to the queen. You allowed the humans to contact their fleet. I gave them a fair chance, Kaleth corrected. What they did with that chance was their choice. A choice that shows exactly what I've been trying to tell you. Humans are not weak. They are resourceful, intelligent, and determined. They are exactly the kind of allies we need. Allies? Vexra spat the word like poison. The Vryn Empire has no allies, only subjects and enemies. And that, Kaleth said, is why we are failing. The arena had mostly cleared. Civilians fled to their quarters. Warriors ran to battle stations. Only the Queen's inner circle remained, along with Tae-sung, Dae-hyun, and the rest of the human crew who had been brought up from the holding cells. Jiwoo moved to Tae-sung's side. Captain, I'm sorry. I sent the signal without telling you. I thought if we lost the combat, at least the fleet could rescue whoever survived. You did good, Tae-sung said, putting a hand on her shoulder. You gave us a chance. Hae-in approached the Queen. Your Majesty, the human fleet is not attacking with full force. They're holding back, just overwhelming our shields. They're trying to communicate. Put them through, Kaleth ordered. Here, where everyone can hear. A holographic display appeared in the center of the arena. A human face materialized, middle-aged with gray in his hair and hard eyes, Admiral Sang-woo of the Earth Defense Fleet. This is Admiral Sang-woo to the Vryn flagship. We have received a distress signal from Captain Tae-sung's vessel. We demand the immediate and safe return of all crew members. We do not wish for war, but we will fight if necessary. Before Kaleth could respond, Vexra shouted from his captors. You see, the humans threaten us. They attack our flagship and make demands. This is what mercy gets you. Sang-woo heard the outburst. Who is that speaking? Tae-sung stepped forward. Admiral, this is Captain Tae-sung. I'm here. My crew is safe. Stand down. This situation is more complicated than you know. Captain? Sang-woo looked shocked. You're alive? What's your status? We're actually guests now, I think. Tae-sung looked at Kaleth. We won our freedom in honorable combat, but there's a political situation happening here that you should know about. Kaleth moved to stand beside Tae-sung, showing the human admiral that they were together. Admiral Sang-woo, I am Queen Kaleth of the Vryn Empire. There are things I must tell you, things about your captain and about my past. And then, with the entire arena listening, with both human and Vryn witnesses, Kaleth told the story. She told about the assassination attempt 7 years ago, about crashing on Haven's Edge, about the young human military officer who found her and chose mercy over duty. He saved my life, she said clearly. He risked his career, possibly his life, to protect me when I was helpless. He asked nothing in return. He simply did what he believed was right. The Vryn in the arena murmured. This was their queen's secret. The reason for her strange behavior toward the human prisoners. The reason she had arranged the combat instead of immediate execution. That human was Captain Tae-sung. When I saw him among the prisoners, I recognized him immediately. I owed him a debt of life. I could not execute him. I could not betray the mercy he showed me. So I arranged a trial by combat, hoping to save him while maintaining the appearance of Vrin's strength. Vexra struggled against his guards. You admit it. You admit you put personal debt above the Empire. You are not fit to rule. Kaleth turned to face him. I put honor above cruelty. I put justice above tradition. Yes, I owed this human a personal debt. But more than that, I owed my Empire the truth. The truth is that we have become too cruel, too rigid, too focused on domination rather than cooperation. She addressed the Vrin gathered in the arena, her voice strong and clear. Our empire is dying. For 100 years we have conquered and enslaved. We have made enemies of every species we encounter. We stand alone in the galaxy, surrounded by those who hate and fear us. How is this strength? True strength lies in building bridges, not just burning them. Weakness, Vexra shouted. You speak of weakness and call it strength. No, came a new voice. One of the Vrin warriors who had fought in the arena had regained consciousness. He stood, supported by medics, his legs still injured. The Queen speaks truth. I fought the humans. They defeated me fairly. They fought with honor, even if their methods were different from ours. They showed me that strength comes in many forms. The second warrior nodded agreement. I underestimated them. I thought them weak because they were small. I was wrong. They fought brilliantly. They earned their victory. Kaleth looked at Admiral Sangwoo's holographic image. Admiral, I propose something unprecedented. Not a treaty of surrender, not a peace born of fear, but an alliance, a true partnership between our species. The hologram flickered as Sangwoo considered. Why should we ally with an empire that has enslaved dozens of species? Because I intend to free those species, Kaleth said. Because I intend to reform the Vrin Empire from within. Because I need allies to make that happen. The old guard will resist, as you can see from Commander Vexra's attempted coup. But with human support, with human innovation and adaptability, we can build something new. Vexra laughed bitterly. You think they will help you? Humans will use this opportunity to destroy us. They will tear down our empire. Maybe parts of your empire deserve to be torn down, Taesung said. He moved to stand directly in front of Vexra. But not all of it. Not the Vrin people. Not your culture and history. Just the cruelty. Just the domination. The Queen is offering you a chance to be something better. And if I refuse? Vexra growled. Then you are guilty of treason, Kaleth said coldly. You drew a weapon against your Queen. You attempted a coup. The penalty is death. Then kill me. I would rather die than see the Empire weakened by mercy. Kaleth looked at him for a long moment. Then she surprised everyone. No, I will not kill you. I will strip you of rank and position. You will be exiled to a colony world where you can see firsthand the suffering our empire has caused. Perhaps given time you will understand why change is necessary. Or perhaps you will die bitter and angry. Either way, you will live to see the new empire we build. It was a calculated mercy. By sparing Vexra, she showed strength without cruelty. She showed that the new Vrin Empire would be different. Some of the Vrin watching nodded approval, others looked uncertain, but none moved to support Vexra now. Admiral Sangwoo spoke again. Queen Kaleth, I need to consult with my government. But personally, I believe your intentions are sincere. Captain Taesung is a good judge of character. If he trusts you, that means something. I do trust her, Taesung said. She risked everything to give us a chance. She's risking even more now to change her empire. Very well, Sangwoo said. I will pull back my fleet to a safe distance. Let's talk about this alliance you're proposing. But Captain, you and your crew are coming home first. That's non-negotiable. Kaleth nodded. Of course, they have earned their freedom, but I hope Captain Taesung will consider returning as an ambassador. We have much to discuss. Taesung looked at his crew. Jiwoo smiled. Daehyun nodded. Bora gave him a thumbs up. They understood. This was bigger than them. This was a chance to change the galaxy. I'll come back, Taesung said. We have a debt to settle after all. You saved my life today by arranging the combat. I'd say we're even. Kyleth smiled, a real smile this time. Perhaps we are, or perhaps we are both in each other's debt forever. Either way, I look forward to working with you, Captain. The hologram faded. The human fleet pulled back, weapons powering down. In the arena, Vryn guards led Vexra away. The attempted coup was over before it truly began. Hayan approached Kyleth and bowed. Your Majesty, you took an enormous risk. If the captain had not trusted you, if the combat had gone differently, if the human fleet had not arrived, then I would have failed, Kyleth said. But I didn't fail. We didn't fail. Today, we took the first step towards something new, something better. She looked at Tai-Sung. Thank you. For everything. 7 years ago, and today. Thank you, he replied, for having the courage to change. As the humans were escorted to their ship, as the Vryn Empire began the slow process of transformation as two species took their first tentative steps toward alliance, one thing was clear. Sometimes a single act of kindness could change the course of history. Sometimes mercy was the strongest choice of all, and sometimes the debts we owe each other become the bridges that connect us. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the arena combat. Captain Tai-Sung stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a joint human-Vryn construction that orbited a neutral moon. Through the transparent wall, he could see ships from both species docking and departing, human vessels with their angular designs and Vryn ships with their organic curves working side by side. It still felt surreal sometimes. Jiwoo joined him at the window, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed him one. I still can't believe this is real. 3 months ago we were prisoners. Now we're ambassadors. Life moves fast, Tai-Sung agreed. He sipped the coffee and made a face. Though I wish they'd figure out how to make decent coffee on this station. The Vryn don't drink coffee. They drink something they call Kela. It's basically liquid energy. I tried it once. I didn't sleep for 2 days. They shared a laugh. It felt good to laugh. The past 3 months had been intense. Negotiations between Earth and the Vryn Empire had been difficult. There was centuries of distrust to overcome. The Vryn had a reputation as conquerors. Many human colonies had been destroyed or enslaved by Vryn forces over the years. But Queen Kyleth had proven her sincerity. She had begun freeing the enslaved species in Vryn territory, not all at once, which would have caused chaos, but gradually, with support systems in place. She had executed the worst of the Vryn oppressors and exiled others like Vexra. She had opened diplomatic channels with dozens of species that the Vryn had previously only communicated with through threats. It was working, slowly. The Vryn Empire was transforming from a force of conquest into something more like a federation. Not everyone was happy about it. There had been resistance, even assassination attempts against Kyleth. But she survived, protected by loyal guards and supported by reformist nobles who saw the writing on the wall. The old way was dying. Something new was being born. Captain, you're wanted in conference room 3, a voice said over the station's communication system. It was Bo-Ra, who had taken a position as the station's chief engineer. She loved the work, combining human and Vryn technology into new innovations. On my way, Tai-Sung replied. He looked at Jiwoo. Want to sit in on this meeting? Always. They walked through the station's corridors. The station was still being built, so some areas were incomplete. But it was functional. Hundreds of humans and Vryn worked here now, learning to live together, learning each other's languages and customs. There were problems, of course. Cultural misunderstandings, arguments. But slowly they were building something unprecedented. Conference Room 3 was one of the completed sections. Tai-Sung and Jiwoo entered to find several people already waiting. Queen Kyleth sat at the head of the table, looking regal even in the simple diplomatic robe she wore for these meetings. Hayan stood behind her, now officially the Vryn ambassador to human space. Admiral Sang-Woo was there via hologram, representing Earth's military interests, and there were others. Representatives from species that had been enslaved by the Vryn, a delegate from the Karathi, whose world had been freed 2 weeks ago, an ambassador from the Thelen Collective, who were cautiously exploring an alliance with both humans and Vryn. The room represented dozens of worlds and billions of lives. Captain Tae-sung, Kaleth greeted him warmly. "Thank you for coming. We have much to discuss, Your Majesty." He bowed slightly. They had settled into a comfortable formality, neither too familiar nor too distant. They were friends in a way, but also representatives of their respective peoples. It was a balance. "We've received troubling news," Admiral Sang-woo said, getting straight to business. "Our scout ships have detected a new threat, a species we've never encountered before. They call themselves the Crawl, and they're expanding into this region of space aggressively." A holographic display appeared above the table, showing ship movements and attack patterns. Tae-sung studied it with a sinking feeling. The Crawl fleet was massive, larger than the human fleet, larger than the Vryn fleet, and they were moving toward occupied space, destroying everything in their path. "How long until they reach our territories?" Tae-sung asked. 6 months, Sang-woo said. "Maybe less." The room fell silent. 6 months to prepare for a war against an unknown enemy. 6 months to unite dozens of species who had been fighting each other for centuries. It seemed impossible. "This is why we needed this alliance," Kaleth said. "The Vryn Empire alone could not face this threat. Humans alone could not face it. But together with our new allies, we have a chance." The Karathi delegate spoke up. "The Vryn enslaved my people for 2 generations. You expect us to fight beside them now?" It was Heian who answered. "The Vryn who enslaved your people are gone, dead or exiled. What remains is a new empire, one built on cooperation instead of domination. I understand your anger. I understand your distrust. But the Crawl will not care about our past conflicts. They will destroy all of us equally." "She's right," Tae-sung said. "I've seen what the Crawl do to conquered worlds. They don't enslave. They don't negotiate. They simply destroy. If we don't stand together, we'll fall separately." The Theln ambassador nodded slowly. "The human speaks truth. We have all heard the reports. The Crawl leave nothing behind but dead worlds. We must unite or die." Over the next hours, they planned. Admiral Sang-woo would coordinate the military response, combining human tactical doctrine with Vryn technology. Bora would lead a team to develop new weapons, using insights from all the allied species. Jiwoo would establish a communications network that could coordinate fleets across dozens of light years. And Tae-sung would lead a diplomatic mission to species who were still undecided. There were dozens of independent worlds, some who distrusted both humans and Vryn. He would try to bring them into the alliance. He would try to build a united front against the Crawl threat. It was a massive undertaking. It would require everything they had. But as Tae-sung looked around the table at representatives from so many different worlds, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. After the meeting, as the others departed, Kaleth asked Tae-sung to stay. When they were alone, she walked to the observation window looking out at the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "Saving me 7 years ago? Everything that happened after, all of this, it's because of that choice you made." Tae-sung joined her at the window. "No, I don't regret it. I did what felt right. And yes, it led to all of this. But look at what this is. 3 months ago, humans and Vryn were enemies. Now we're allies. Species that were enslaved are free. We're building something new. But now we face a new enemy. One that might destroy everything we've built. Maybe, but we'll face them together. That's what makes us strong. Not our weapons or our ships. Our unity. Our willingness to look past old hatreds and work towards something better." Kaleth touched her scar, a habit she had when thinking deeply. "I never thanked you properly. For saving my life. For trusting me when you had every reason not to. For helping me become the queen I needed to be. You don't need to thank me. You've more than repaid any debt. You risked your crown, maybe your life, to give me and my crew a chance. You're transforming an entire empire. That's worth more than one life saved in a cave." She smiled. "Perhaps we should stop keeping score. Perhaps we should just accept that we are friends. And friends help each other without counting debts." "I'd like that." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the ships move through space. Human ships and Vryn ships working together. It was a beautiful sight. A sign of hope in a dangerous galaxy. The next day, Tae-sung prepared for his diplomatic mission. His crew was ready. Jiwoo would stay on the station, coordinating communications. But Daehyun would come with him, providing security. Bora would join them, showing off the new technologies they'd developed. Others from both species would come too, forming a mixed delegation. Before they left, Hai-In approached Tae-sung privately. "Captain, may I speak with you?" "Of course. I wanted to say thank you. When I helped you during the combat, I was terrified. I thought I would be discovered and executed. But you never betrayed me. You never mentioned my involvement. You protected me. You risked everything to help us. The least I could do was keep your secret. It's more than that. You showed me that doing the right thing is worth the risk. I've spent my life serving the royal family, always afraid, always following orders. You taught me that sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. That lesson changed my life. You were brave, Hai-In. Braver than you know. The Queen is lucky to have you as her ambassador," she smiled. "And the human race is lucky to have you as theirs." Tae-sung's ship departed Unity Station that afternoon. They would visit a dozen worlds over the next months, trying to build the alliance they needed. Some would join immediately. Others would refuse. Some would wait to see how the situation developed. But every world they convinced was one more ally against the coming storm. As they jumped to faster-than-light speeds, Tae-sung thought about the journey that had brought him here. From a young officer who saved an injured alien, to an explorer who was captured, to a fighter who won his freedom in combat, to an ambassador trying to unite the galaxy, life had a strange way of connecting moments. A single choice made in a dark cave 7 years ago had set all of this in motion.